My name is Sylvia. I have to admit, I'm a very skeptical person. Or at least, I think I am. Maybe it's denial, or maybe it's true. Because many paranormal things have happened to me throughout my life, but I always try to downplay them. This time, I want to share a different kind of experience, one I could never forget, and it still sparks my curiosity to this day. I don't know if it qualifies exactly as a horror story, but it's something unexplained, at least for me. I've never found a logical explanation for what I lived through that afternoon and night in 2011. At the time, I was living in Cancun with Carlos, my partner, and our 5-month-old baby. Our relationship was stable, and I felt happy building the family we had formed. Since I didn't have family there, we often visited Carlos's parents, who lived only 15 minutes away by car. They loved me very much, and always made me feel like part of the family. One day, Carlos came back from work and decided we should visit them. I didn't ask if he'd warned them ahead of time. We just got in the car and went. Our baby was in his car seat in the back, secured safely. When we arrived, I unlatched the seat from its base, which was always a little tricky for me. Carlos carried the baby into the house while I closed the car and grabbed the diaper bag. When I entered, I found my baby still in the car seat placed on the floor, and Carlos was on the couch, holding the remote and flipping through channels. His parents were moving around, getting things ready to head out. They told us they were going to visit an uncle on some business, but insisted we stay and wait for them. We agreed, and they left after 6 p.m. I remember glancing at the big clock in the dining room when Carlos's mom said they'd be back around 7. Since the place was only 5 minutes away, it made sense. I sat beside Carlos and moved the car seat a bit to make space for my feet. My baby was very calm. He could sit for long stretches without fussing. I remember we started watching the movie The Executioner. I told Carlos I had never seen it. He made a comment about the plot, and that's the last thing I remember. What came next? I woke up on the floor, lying on my side. In front of me was Carlos, also lying on his side, with a pillow under his head. Behind me, my baby was still asleep in his car seat. I sat up. The sensation was so strange. I felt heavy, as if drugged. That state between deep sleep and reality, where you know you're not fully awake and can't interact properly. I managed to glance at the dining room clock. It was after 9:30 p.m. I thought, it's late, we should go. Carlos woke up. He stood, grabbed the car seat while our baby remained deeply asleep. I stood too, in that same calm, drowsy state. I casually gathered some pillows and tossed them on the couch. We got in the car. While Carlos strapped the baby in, I sank into my seat with the same strange drowsiness. During the drive, everything felt dreamlike. My blinks felt long and slow. I glanced at Carlos as he drove. He was only staring at the road, silent. I wasn't scared or worried. I didn't even think about my baby needing to eat, even though I usually breastfed him every few hours. We arrived home. This time, Carlos carried both the car seat and the diaper bag. When we entered, the living room is the first thing you see, with a bathroom just before the dining room. He went in that direction. I heard him drag a chair to sit, but before that, he placed the car seat in the middle of the living room and the diaper bag on the couch by the stairs. I took my baby out. He was still asleep. Without even looking at Carlos, I told him I'd go upstairs. He answered that was fine. He'd do some work before coming up. I went up, put the baby in his crib. That night, I completely broke my routine. Normally,
I always bathed him at 8:30 p.m., fed him, burped him, put him in his crib, and stayed talking to him until he fell asleep. But that night, I just laid him down and went to my room. I sat on the bed, collapsed onto my back. I looked briefly at a big, bright star through the window and fell asleep like that, my feet still on the floor. I woke up wearing my pajamas, neatly in bed. Carlos was asleep next to me. Slowly, I looked at the nightstand clock. It was nearly 11 p.m. I realized I hadn't bathed the baby. Even though it was late, I decided to do it. I prepared everything, carried him to the bathroom, undressed him, put him in his baby seat inside the tub, bathed him, dried him, dressed him. And the strangest thing, he never woke up. Not with the water, not with the movement, not even to feed. He was completely asleep, and I wasn't worried at all. I simply didn't analyze it. I put him back in his crib, cleaned everything up as usual, left the tub aside to dry, and went to bed. But remember, I was still in that state. Everything felt dreamlike. At 7 a.m., my alarm rang. This time, I woke up normally. Carlos was still asleep. I went to the bathroom, then to my baby's room. He was already awake, calm, looking at the mobile above his crib. When I lifted him, I noticed something very strange. One sleeve of his clothes was completely soaked, so much that when I picked him up, a thin stream of water dripped from his arm. But the rest of his body, his other arm, the crib, the sheets, the mattress, was dry, except for a small spot where that arm had been. There was so much water, it couldn't have only wet one isolated spot. I quickly changed him and went to wring the sleeve. There was a lot of water. When I came down with the baby in my arms, I picked up the diaper bag Carlos had left on the couch the night before. As I lifted it, drops fell on my feet. The bag was leaking water from one corner, so I opened it and saw liquid pooled inside. It didn't make sense. There was nothing liquid in there, only a pack of baby wipes. I shouted for Carlos to come quickly. He came from the kitchen. Since I was holding the baby, I saw he had already gone downstairs to prepare breakfast. He looked inside the bag, confused. He saw the little water remaining in the waterproof lining. On the floor was the spilled liquid. He asked, "What's going on? Why is there water?" That's when I remembered the strange feeling from the night before. I told him. He paused, thinking, and then said something that froze my blood. "I don't remember how we got home. You won't believe me, but I don't even remember driving." I was shocked. I asked, "What do you mean you don't remember? Don't you remember driving?" He answered, "No. The last thing I remember is watching the movie on the couch and waking up here at home." It hit me then. I didn't remember either. I told him everything I did remember, even that he stayed working in the dining room, but he insisted he had no memory of it. We grew worried and called his parents to ask why they hadn't returned on time. His mother said they came back shortly after 7 and were disappointed to see we had left. She said they even tried calling us on our phones, but we never answered. But we had no missed calls, and besides, that was impossible. We left after 9:30 according to the clock I saw. Nothing made sense. To this day, I don't know what happened that night. The time lapses, the drowsiness, why my baby never woke up, not even during the bath, why he didn't cry from hunger after so many hours, why Carlos remembered nothing, and especially that mysterious water that appeared in different places. I know my story isn't exactly terrifying, but it is very strange. So I dare to ask, has anyone else experienced something even remotely similar? I never found an explanation for this experience. I only hope someone out there has an answer, even if it's a fantastical one.
My name is Choi. This happened to me a few years ago in Ecatepec, in the neighborhood where I grew up. Anyone who knows this area knows what these hillside neighborhoods are like. Places where no one enters unless they belong, where everybody knows each other, for better or worse. Since childhood, I learned to deal with all kinds of people, even the crazies in the area. I don't say that with bad intentions. It's just what we all call them here, almost affectionately. They were the men who once had homes, families, jobs, but for different reasons, they ended up living on the streets, surviving on a little bottle of Tonayan, that cheap alcohol that costs just a few pesos. Among them was Johnny Oregon. We called him that because his real name was Juan, but he always told stories about his trip to work in the state of Oregon in the US. He only lasted 6 months before being deported, and during that time, he lost all the savings he had scraped together to cross the border. Sadly, when he returned, his wife had left with another man. He couldn't get back the house they had been renting because the woman abandoned it a month after he left, even though she had still been collecting the money he sent every month to pay the rent. He had nothing. No family, no home, no will to continue. And little by little, he faded away, ending up in the street, living among the drunks and outcasts of the neighborhood. But still, everybody knew him. He was part of the scenery, and he was a good person. One night, around 4 in the morning, I was with Brandon, coming back from a party in another neighborhood. Yes, that's really my friend's name, Brandon. Even though people mocked him for it, we were heading to his place, which meant climbing those long, steep stairways. Cars couldn't reach that area anymore. We walked quietly, without fear of being attacked or anything like that. Everyone around there knew each other. Halfway up, in the darkest part of the stairs, we saw a figure standing there. From his outline, we knew it was Johnny. But he looked strange. He was standing on the tips of his toes, rigid, motionless. Brandon yelled something at him, but Johnny didn't respond. Then we saw him start moving, as if in convulsions. His arms flapped in a strange way, like he was being electrocuted while still standing. We panicked and ran toward him. That's when we saw it clearly. He wasn't alone. There was another figure behind him, holding him upright. I don't know how to describe it. That thing appeared from behind Johnny to stare right at us. Before I continue, let me make something clear. We weren't high. We weren't on anything weird. We only had a couple of beers with us, nothing more. What we saw was absolutely real. Behind him was a woman, tall, very tall. Her body looked young, thin, but her face was that of a woman 100 years old. I'm not exaggerating when I say she looked like someone a century old. She was standing there, perfectly straight, holding Johnny from behind like a puppet. She wore a long black dress, like an old bridal gown, and she was laughing. I don't know if she was laughing at us or at him, but her laugh was the worst thing of all. And then we saw her bite him. She bit him on the back of the neck, right where the neck meets the shoulders, like an animal. That's when we bolted, running down the stairs like madmen without looking back. At the bottom of the stairs, we ran into some of Brandon's older friends and told them what we saw. They laughed. They thought we were exaggerating, but said they'd go check on Johnny Oregon. We kept running until we reached my place, still trembling. But as the distance grew, we started looking for explanations. We swore we must have seen wrong. We thought Brandon's friends would just make fun of us, but they didn't, because when they went up the stairs, they found nothing. No Johnny, no one. He was gone, and no one ever saw him again, not the next day, not ever after. He simply vanished. On the stairs, in the very spot where we saw him, there remained a large stain, not blood, something more like oil, dark and sticky. As far as I know, there wasn't any legend before this,
But when we began telling our story, some neighbors, and even people from nearby neighborhoods, said they'd seen something similar. And of course, the features of that woman were unforgettable. I'm not saying it was true, because I don't believe in those things, but someone told me, people say she's a witch, just a witch, but no one ever knew she could take someone. I ask you, ask around here, in this neighborhood, if anyone else has seen her. That stain, it's still there. Every time I visit Brandon, I see it, and I don't know. It makes me sad thinking about Johnny. He wasn't a bad man. He lived a hard, unfair life, and he didn't deserve to disappear like that, into nothing. I just hope he's okay, or at least still alive somewhere, sipping his Tonayan in some corner of the world.